We've been supporting democracy in Africa, in many countries, and in particular in Ghana for many years. And we've moved from perhaps an approach in the past which was based on short-term actions to one which is based on supporting the institutions in the country. And one of the interesting features of Ghanaian constitution is that you have these independent bodies, the Electoral Commission, the National Media Commission, the National Civic Education Commission, which have been set up under the constitution. And we think that that is an interesting way to support democracy in Ghana in the long term.
Independent governance institutions are key pillars, in my view, that counterbalance the forces of politics. So you have these institutions established under the Constitution as independent institutions which are not subject to executive influence and therefore can presumably serve the public interest without anybody influencing them.
We are sister organizations. Civic education includes voter education. Voter education is part of civic education. So they have a role in voter education. Beyond that, the largest civic education that they do make people understand the democratic environment, which also impacts on the elections.
We paid a visit to the Parliament, and some of the eminent parliamentarians were explaining the Constitution, which is based on different constitutions, but today is very much Ghana's own model, elements of the Westminster system, elements of a presidential system. It was a good opportunity for development partners, ambassadors, to meet the whole leadership in the Parliament and listen to one another and create a dialogue, and then we can follow that up later.
So the core election budget will always be the responsibility of the government. But there are other things that enhance the transparency of the election and that improve the credibility of the election, if you can find the money to do them. And that's where the donors become particularly important.
One of the things we can do is our projects of assistance to these institutions are long-term and the money is there and we're able to do that. But that's only to the institutions. You need the money to be able to carry out the elections. And if there's a shortage of resources, it's going to have an impact.
See, they have been very consistent because they do long-term programming to assist elections. And the European Union has been particularly programming its assistance over a long period of time and into the future. So even though they are not supporting the core budget, the things they do are equally important.
We want to ensure that we keep supporting the process. And we don't look at the election just as what happens on the day, but we look at everything that happens before and long before to ensure that the systems are working. And we think it's a very important investment in training people, in improving the systems will pay off later on election day and after election day in ensuring that the tradition of democracy is maintained and that conflict is avoided.
They have done well this year. They're helping with various aspects. But the education, they're helping us with the tactile ballots. That is for the blind people to be able to vote without the assistance of anybody.
I think civic education is an interesting one. The idea that we need to educate voters to know why it is they vote and why it's worth voting. A lot is happening, the Parliament is involved and people need to know about it and they need to know how that will impact on their lives.
With the NCCE, when it comes to elections, we do more of a voter education role. So we would tell the people why they need to go out and vote, get the people involved, get them engaged. We would inform the citizenry of the times for the election, the date for the election, and then particularly this year with the support of the EU, we've been doing a lot of stakeholder engagements, community debates, meeting with the candidates who are aspiring, and just making sure that even with the candidates, they understand the rules governing the elections, they understand that it's non-partisan, for instance, they understand why they are standing for the elections, and getting them to meet with the community, for the community to know the people who are trying to get into the district assemblies to represent them. So that really has been the focal work that the NCC has done.
Everybody can see immediately the kind of collaboration that should exist between us and the NCCE. But if you look at the National Media Commission, the role they have in relation to the media and the role the media plays in elections, it becomes obvious that we should also relate to them.
The media is very powerful, and the media can play a very positive role in informing people. And so if they're working in a positive way and connecting with the people, that can be a very positive way of getting messages across. In today's globalized world, we are very much interconnected. What happens in one place has implications almost immediately in another. Our support for democracy is central, and what Ghana is doing, and Ghana as a model of democracy, important not only for this country, but also that other countries in the region and Africa would continue to see that as an example that might be emulated, that might be followed.